once heard this story about a uni student who burnt all of his money before hiking through the North American Alps as a last-ditch effort to find out who he truly was. I've come to find that spending this much time covered head to toe in snow leaves me with a lot of time to think. Think about what the next step in my path is. How do I show people who I truly am? And when I'm gone, what will the story be that people tell about me? I like to think some other hiker might find my cathedral wrapped in the warmth of the sun and wonder about my story. That hiker died alone in a bus covered by snow. I don't want that to be my story. Winter, I know, is just around the corner, and I know by next week I'm not going to be able to walk outside without the risk of freezing to death. This place is covered in white. Everywhere I look, it is absolutely covered, and there's just nothing I can do. Winter is so close, and this thing needs to be done before then. I spent yesterday gathering some materials, and I've decided to make myself a new snow jacket, just in hopes of giving me just a little bit of help in staying warm. At the moment, my cathedral is covered in snow, even the inside. My feet are wet, my toes are cold, they're about to fall off, I think. Last week I finished the domes, and I think they look beautiful. I think they worked out really, really well. But now we've got to try and connect up the main base of the cathedral into the domes and adding a glass roof on top of that, making sure that I keep it so that the sun can warm this place up from the outside in. I know that the front of my cathedral needs some work, and that's what we're going to try and do first. We're going to extend out that second layer all the way up to the front and connect it up to some pillars at the very front to give it a little bit of depth. And then from there, we're going to try and connect that second layer into a kind of archway or point-shaped roof. We're going to see if that works well, if we can connect it up to the dome. I also spent a little bit of time designing how I wanted to connect the exterior walls to the interior walls, and I came up with the idea of using these buttresses, which are these thick diagonal lines that connect the two walls. And I originally started with this really thin line that I didn't really like. So I did a little bit of research and found that they have these little circular archways underneath that I decided to add in. I finished off the buttresses on this side, and they look stunning. I think they look so good, and the way that I've connected it now is a little bit thicker than what it was, which kind of helps make this whole exterior wall feel a lot more solidly connected to the interior wall. And as well as I've used these walls to kind of connect the top of it, which adds a little bit of depth, which the kind of build was lacking. This place is coming along quite nicely, and as much as I would love to say that it's almost done, it's very much not. And last night we had a snowstorm come through, and you can see that everything is pretty much covered. It's almost a whole block full now, and it's just really dawning on me that winter is getting a little bit too close to comfort. I want to make sure I can get a roof put on here pretty soon. It is very, very cold, and putting a roof on here will make sure that, my feet don't get so wet with all this snow hanging around. So these buttresses, I've got to go over on that side, and then we might be able to look at putting a little roof on here. But until then, this cold, snowy wind is really going to be blowing in as much as it really wants. Last night I was speaking to the villagers, and they were talking about the stories of wintertime and how the last few years haven't been this bad, but recently they've been noticing it getting colder and colder than what it had been. One of the villagers mentioned that the places up north had become so cold that they weren't able to live outside anymore, and the villagers, or what was left of them, had to bunker underneath the ground just to stay warm. Their stories reminded me of how it was looking today, with the snow starting to pile up so much, and these icy winds cutting through my clothing like a piece of butter. It really felt like now was the time that I should really leave. But if I was to leave, I'd have to start again. And I don't even know if I'd be able to get out of this winter without, well, freezing. I've been working to get these buttresses in place, and I think we're about time where we can start looking at how we might put some glass on this place. Make it actually have a roof. These buttresses in here do look really lovely, and I'm loving how the sun comes through here to really shine and emphasize the shape and design of this place. I really, really am liking it a lot. I think the idea is to add a couple more on the outside of the build to kind of make these walls feel, yeah, even more solid. Now, my original idea was to kind of have a flat roof like this using glass, which would keep the place inside nice and warm and allow the sunlight to come through these archways. But now that I've been experimenting with a little bit more color in the glass, like up along here, I've also got this cyan stained glass, which might look a little bit different. I'm kind of thinking that if the sunlight comes through the blue glass, underneath everything will feel really like, blue, and like the sky's nice and not cloudy like it is almost every other day. And it might be a really, really nice effect on the inside. I'll have to wait for the morning to come because right now the sun is kind of over there, but I'll see what it might look like. But for now, I'm going to chuck in the glass on the other side and then we'll come back to here and see what it might look like. Alright, the morning sun has come over, and now that I look at the cyan and the clear, I don't actually know which one I want to choose. I think the cyan is a lot of blue, and the clear does help to keep the whole shape of the build really nice. I'm really not quite sure though. Now that I look at it, I do like the blue, but maybe it would be too much. Kind of tricky. I guess if I want to have these archways filled in with glass as well, I could probably look at putting some more stained glass stuff in there rather than the entire thing being using stained glass. Maybe I'll start by using cyan, and if it doesn't look good, then we can change it all over. But for now, I think I'm going to try using this. It's going to be a lot of cyan dye, I'm realizing that now, but I think it'll look really nice. And for this part in here, I'm still not quite sure what I want to use. I'm not sure at all. We'll start with cyan dye and see where we can go from there. All of the glass has been put into place, and I think it looks stunning. I think the use of the cyan glass really does help make this whole place feel nice and uniform in color, but also as that light shines through here, it just gives that nice sense of blue sky, which I'm going to be missing in the next couple of weeks. I think it was a really good decision to use the blue rather than the clear, especially if I want to be using clear glass and kind of different colors for all of these walls. And especially for the big middle kind of dome, I don't want to be using the same blue color glass the entire way up. I think I want to change it up and have some details and different colored glass to really tell a story through there. This also means that I'll finally be able to have some parts of my base which won't have snow building up. And you can see here that it is so thick along these points that I'm very excited to actually have somewhere that might be a little bit, not as cold would be nice. The next part of the build I want to work on is this front entrance we did at the start of the episode. And I've got this kind of circle in the middle, which I was wondering what I wanted to kind of do, and I wanted to do some kind of detail there. But if we look at other parts of the base, you can see here that it does have this kind of like snowflake pattern up on top of the smaller dome. And I think that would just be perfect to kind of show at the front as well, like a little recurring motif that would make this whole place feel nice and connected. So I think I want to do something just like this, but maybe a little bit more intricate. I think what I want to do is kind of push this back by 1 block so that there's kind of this circular area here, but then also a kind of bit more depth to the build. And I'm realizing now that I'm going to have to kind of split this between the oranges and the blues. Can I just take a moment to see just how pretty this looks from here? As I walk along here, I can see the sun setting off in the distance, and the way that the sun shines off all of the snow just looks stunning, doesn't it? It looks beautiful. And I can finally walk around my base to have a little bit more of a, homely feeling. Oh, this is just coming together so nicely. Alright, I've filled in this little area here with scaffolding, which make it a lot easier to place all the blocks down, I think. And the middle of the circle has a gap in the middle of it. It's 1 block where there's nothing there, so the middle is here. Which means my star shape will kind of look a little bit like this. Oh, I'm going to need to change it like that. There we go. That should give us that little star pattern, but it's going to be a little bit trickier to see it with all of these kind of blocks in place. Let me see if I can refine it a little bit by adding in these blocks. 1, 2. Oh, it has helped, but I've gone 1 block too far. I wanted to push it back 1. Hang on. That way we get that star or snowflake kind of pattern even on the front of the build. And let's get rid of the scaffolding. Like that. And I think that is a lovely way to kind of show that little snowflake design and kind of a motif that connects this part of the build to the rest of it. I think it's such a lovely little design. I'm going to spend a little bit of time kind of adding a couple more detail stuff to it, like stairs and trapdoors, to kind of make it feel a little bit more detailed than just blocks. We'll see how it might turn out. With a couple of stairs and trapdoors and all sorts of little things, I've been able to give a little bit more shape and depth to the build, or the front star shape thing. And I think it looks lovely. I think it really does help to kind of tie in the front of the build to the actual cathedral. It also really helps to kind of tie in the kind of storyline and surviving the winter that this whole series is kind of going for. And if you are really enjoying it, then do consider just doing a little subscribe down below. I do really appreciate it, and I've loved the comments that people have been saying about my series. So if you are interested in this and you like how it's going, well then stay tuned, because I think there will be lots more to it. From here, I want to just finish off these front pillars. I know that I was undecided on what I was going to do with the top 2 like archways, and I think I like the trapdoors a little bit more than the shelf blocks. So I think I'll change those over, and then we can probably get started on this big dome. Oh, it looks like a snowstorm might be coming in. How am I freezing?